Winter is here, but is Game of Thrones winning the war on piracy? And what's next for Foxtel? Will Apple hurt Netflix? And what new streaming services are coming to Australia? Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by NetComm, taking Australian technology to the global market. Welcome to Vertical Hold, Behind the Tech News, where we talk to Australia's leading technology journalists to get the stories behind the news of the week. I'm Adam Turner, and I'm not joined this week by Alex Kidman, who's off rounding up his own army of misfits so he can make a play for the Iron Throne. Instead, I'm joined by a longtime friend of the show and king of the TV guide, Steve Molk from Decider TV. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Frustrating and infuriating people since 2007.
Yes, with pride. All right, so we're going to skip the news and jump straight into it this week. The wait is over. Winter is here. Game of Thrones is back. I think we just talk about Game of Thrones for like half an hour. That's it. Taking over the podcast.
Right, spoilers there be ahead. No, we won't do that. What an amazing season episode. Huge from a story perspective and from a TV business perspective, just as big.
So we're set up for a really big, for those of you playing along at home, this is the final season of Game of Thrones. We've been waiting 2 years for it. There was no show last year. There's, I think, 8 or 10 episodes this year. So it's the big wrap up. Only 6, did you say?
6 whole episodes.
Only 6, because I'm already planning with my friends for like a final episode. We've got to get together and watch it. So that'll be early June. All right. We're trying to figure out who's got the best TV and who's got the best stereo system. So quite possibly could end up at my house. So we're setting up for a huge final season. How did the numbers stack up for Foxtel after the first episode?
Look, it was pretty great, really mirroring what happened in the States. The first episode in the US landed for HBO as the most watched episode of Game of Thrones ever on its first day. They're saying 17.1 million. And of course, they acknowledge that there's an on-demand thing that will build and grow across HBO Now for them. Last season, season 7, they pulled 32 point something million on average per episode. Wow.
So that's not just day of, that's then like the 30-day rolling catch-up streaming sort of.
So day of 17.1, new record, and overall last season, 32 point something. They're expecting to eclipse that. For Foxtel, obviously it's a little bit smaller in audience, but we're not too far kind of perspective-wise off that. I mean, in the Monday that they landed it here in Australia, there was an 11 o'clock airing, there was an 8:30 airing. I think they snuck a third airing in later in the evening on Fox Showcase. 962,000 people tuned in. That was a 17% increase on the season 7 premiere. And they're expecting that to even go bigger. And that's just their broadcast, like Foxtel IQ service.
Yeah.
For those that use Foxtel Now or On Demand, an extra 333,000 people watched it on the first day.
So that's about a quarter of all Foxtel's viewers didn't watch it through a Foxtel set-top box, but through some kind of streaming service.
Yeah, well, and look, I was one of them. I was at work.
Yeah.
I just took lunch at 11 o'clock. And that, I think, is the way that a lot of people have done it. And I'm sure that those that have an IQ service as well were set to record and watched it later on their bigger screens or whatever went on there. But there's no question it's going to be massive, I guess, Adam, because when we're talking about it, it's season 8 of the biggest TV show in the world. Foxtel exclusively have it in Australia. And while some of their technology may have struggled Monday night to allow people to watch it, again, people are still keen. They're persevering. And when it's only 6 episodes and you take in the 10-day free trial that Foxtel can offer you on Foxtel Now, you're only up for $25. Like 1 month if you just want to watch the season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And so does that 25% of people watching on streaming, does that surprise you? Does it seem a bit high or a bit low or about right?
I think it's reflective of where the market is when it comes to how people are wanting to consume their TV. Now, no question, the bulk of that 333,000 were watching it in a way that suited them when it suited them.
Yeah.
So not everybody was able to sit down at 11 o'clock and take lunch and watch it then, or sneak, in between meetings with the boss or whatever. A bunch of people would have watched it on their bus or train ride home. And others don't have the IQ service, only have Foxtel Now, and then would have watched it possibly through a Telstra TV or via the ability to cast it onto their big screen through their device in their lap.
And that number would also count the people who technically don't have Foxtel, but their brother-in-law has Foxtel,
Yeah,
so they tap into his Foxtel Go, not Foxtel Now, because that's a separate service. Foxtel Go is the streaming service you can use if you have a Foxtel subscription,
correct.
or as we say, if someone has a Foxtel subscription and they're prepared to share it with you, they kind of know that that happens, don't they? They're not surprised about it.
It's kind of an industry appreciated thing that logins are shared.
Yeah.
So that's why when they talk about when you sign people up to services, that they talk about a number of simultaneous screens or devices that
Mm.
can watch at any one time. Like your Foxtel Go and Now, they allow for multiple screens in those situations. You can only change them once a month though. So if you don't
Oh,
have
okay.
access to that, and have been given somebody's login for Foxtel Now or Foxtel Go, they're being very generous to you because that's then cutting out an opportunity for them to watch it on some other device
Yeah.
within their house.
Whereas Netflix doesn't do that. Netflix, you can be
Mm,
logged in on as many devices as you want. It's just a number of simultaneous streams. So if
yes.
you've got the Ultra HD, the most expensive package, four people can watch it simultaneously, but you can have it installed on or logged in on 10 of your devices and 50 of your friends
Yeah.
could have it logged in as long as not too many people. Like I might say that perhaps my mother and my mother-in-law both have access to my Foxtel
Hypothetically
account,
speaking.
hypothetically speaking. But I've only slowly expanded that as I've upped the number of Foxtel simultaneous ones I can have,
Yes.
because it would be silly to do that and only have a single or a double thing because I don't want to ring them up and say, hey, I'm trying to watch Star Trek, get the hell off Netflix.
Yeah. And the last thing you want when you're settling down to watch Game of Thrones is to go,
Yeah.
what do you mean that this is in use somewhere else?
Yeah.
What's that about? And there's
So,
obviously elements of trust in that too.
yeah. So I would think that Foxtel would still prefer that than all out piracy. Because if nothing else, that might
Yeah.
can be a little bit of a taste and then eventually go, I think I'll subscribe for it myself. How did the piracy figures stack up this season?
Well, it's of course a growing response. We need to really wait and see. I mean, we're only at time of record Thursday after the Monday that it aired.
Mm,
So, a broadcast situation, it's here, it's happening, and then it's on again next week. I think that the real revelation of and you've got to wait for people that are willing to service that to cough up their figures as well.
yeah.
Um, the bigger numbers on that start to pop out in a week or so or a month or so. They go, well, we had season 8, episode 1, and it did for us 11 billion downloads. There's no
Yeah.
hard fast, and we also have to take them at their word on it too.
Yeah. Oh, I did see figures that because when you look at file sharing services,
Mm,
you can see how many simultaneous downloads you have on a file, which obviously peaks when it first goes up and everyone's
sure.
trying to download it at the same time. And people were saying that looking at that figure for the first episode of this season, it didn't hit the highest number of simultaneous users as it did in the first episode for back in 2015, which is the most it's ever done.
Yes.
So it does look in terms of that day one demand, I need to download it right now. It does look like there were fewer people doing that than before. Whether that's enough to say they're actually winning the war on piracy, I don't know. They're never going to wipe it out completely, are they?
No, not while we have the technology to record things from the internet
Mm,
and share it in a way that we can like that.
yeah,
That's a fait accompli. The acknowledgement, as much as anything, and this is what HBO themselves, as much as Foxtel, are doing, is trying to make it available as easily as possible in as many different ways as possible for as reasonable as price as possible.
yeah,
Because we have to acknowledge that $25 a month isn't just you only get Game of Thrones. When you sign up to Foxtel now and you pay your $25, you've got access to their full drama pack. So that is, if and I'm probably wrong, but I thought this included like the comedy. Oh, well, it includes Veep, Barry, What We Do in the Shadows, which are absolutely smashing it on Tuesday nights. A whole bunch of other stuff, including shortly, well, Big Little Lies will take up the Game of Thrones position at 11 o'clock when that starts airing for season 2. But like, it's all of those things plus the on-demand stuff related to those channels. So
yeah.
you could have signed up and watched all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones in preparation for this.
People have been doing that. My friend, her nephew has got old enough now that he's
Mm.
been reading the books, and they've gone through the marathon over the last month or two to watch all 7 seasons so they can actually sit down and watch this season together.
Wow.
So there
Well,
are people out there doing that.
that would have been some very interesting conversations. Went, Mummy, why are there
Oh, yeah.
three girls and that boy in bed?
Yeah, exactly. Um, so do you think that Foxtel's doing enough to combat piracy? Because people might slag off Foxtel, and sometimes rightly so.
Mm.
But in terms of introducing streaming services and other ways to get things, I think over the last few years, they've probably been a bit more progressive than Australia's free-to-air broadcasters, and in some ways even more progressive than HBO
There's
what
no,
they offer in the US.
yeah. There's no question that Foxtel had to do something.
Mm,
Australia became a punchline to a joke
yeah,
when Game of Thrones was on. That we're the highest illegal downloaders, using that term, of Game of Thrones every season. In past situations, so
yeah,
they needed to do something, and the rise of things like Foxtel Go and certainly Foxtel Now have helped address that. That's meant that um, you can complain all you want, but reasonably speaking, for not very much. $25 a month is not much to be able to access Foxtel Now and watch the show that you want to watch and rewatch it as many times as you like. It's more expensive than your Stan or your Netflix, sure. And maybe it is or isn't delivering it to you in HD. That might depend on your experience and their technology on the night, but they're doing it.
yeah,
They're stepping up and delivering stuff. They have to. And also, in part, they also acknowledge now that they've got some serious competition in that when they launched Game of Thrones, Netflix was an American thing, and now it's
yeah.
in every country but three. Stan has made huge inroads in Australia as a streaming only service, and it's given us some of the best Australian, American, British, international drama, comedy, movies, all of those sorts of things that Foxtel aren't.
So, what do you think's going to fill the gap for Foxtel once Game of Thrones is gone? Are they going to feel the pain next year? And how are they going to deal with that?
Look, you'd have to expect that they will feel some pain. I mean, there has been the promise, of course, by HBO that there are, what are we at last count? I think three different spin off series from Game of Thrones that will come eventually. And no question, Foxtel will be wanting to leverage that HBO relationship to deliver them to us.
Hmm,
They also have, look, tapping on the door, Disney Plus about to come certainly into America. That's going to be a concern for HBO and their crew. And here, look, it could come in any number of ways, but it will certainly be something that Foxtel are concerned about because the content that Disney Plus are offering, let alone what Apple Plus will actually give us when it actually lands, Apple TV, um, there's way more players in the market now than even they could have anticipated when they launched Foxtel Go or Foxtel Now.
yeah. So, Disney's taken all of its content away from Netflix in Australia and given it to Stan. Now, is it cynical of me to think that that's just a defensive position to make sure Netflix can't have it until Disney's ready to actually have it themselves in Australia?
I like how
I'm not
you word
crazy
it.
to look at it that way, am I?
No. And I like how you word it like it's some kind of
Yeah.
playground trade. They took
Yeah,
it
yeah.
off Foxtel and gave it to Stan. And
Off Netflix
Stan,
and gave it to Stan. Yeah.
and Stan just happened to give them a lot of money for it.
Yes.
Um,
But as soon as Disney's ready to launch in Australia, they'll take it straight back. I can assure you it's not a 10-year deal or anything like that.
no, and look, there is lots of speculation in no small
Yeah.
part because Mike Sneesby, who is the CEO of Stan, and Hugh Marks, the CEO of the Nine Group, that is the biggest media company in Australia right now, um, they've spent time in America talking to Disney. And I don't mean to do that deal after that deal was done.
Yeah.
Um, Full credit to Mike and his team to lock in the deal that they did with Disney. Admittedly, it's probably only 12 months. We don't know those details for sure, but it meant that over our summer holidays, so many people signed up to Stan, and they are the first to admit that was a huge boon for them
Yeah.
to be
And
able to watch that content.
Stan's done really well in Australia. I will admit that when Stan first came along, you had Netflix, you had Stan, and you had Presto, and it's just like, what
Oh,
hope do
remember
you have
Presto?
against Net? Yeah, remember the good old days. And it's like, what hope do this lot have? But Stan has really helped by the fact that Presto went by the wayside. But
Mm,
Stan has really carved out a niche for itself alongside Netflix. The way that sort of everyone said, oh, it's Netflix versus Foxtel and one's going to kill the other. But Netflix and Foxtel sort of seem to coexist in that people will subscribe to both. But people, a lot of Australians seem happy to bolt on Stan as that third option. It's not, will I get Netflix or will I get Stan? Because Netflix has got, they say about 11 million Australians have access to it. I don't
mm,
know how many subscriptions that is. But Stan has jumped 45% in the last 12 months, and it's now got 2.5 million. So there's obviously
yeah.
people who are going to go, well, yeah, I'm prepared to pay for both. And you think that Disney has definitely helped with that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Standard talking about by fourth quarter this year, cutting a profit
Ooh.
for a streaming service
Yeah.
that is, what, 3, 4 years at best
Yeah.
old, to be saying, no, no, we're making money now,
Yeah.
is a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah.
And again, full credit to that team. I think the really interesting thing about the Stan Disney relationship right now is because it's all super secret. And the only Disney Plus stuff that we know is the American market Disney Plus. They haven't talked about what happens when it lands in Australia, how it lands in Australia, prices, any of that sort of stuff. We know nothing about the Australian rollout. In fact, we know nothing about Disney Plus outside of America, other
Does,
than content.
does Disney have any allies in Australia in terms of broadcasters? Like you got CBS and 10 All Access.
Mm.
You've got Stan's obviously tied in with Nine. Does Disney have a big relationship with anybody that would be an obvious match to make that work here? Or are they
Look,
coming in
back in the
as the dark
day,
horse?
yeah, back in the day when you would have said that there were explicit alignments between networks,
Yeah.
much more before it came an a la carte situation where Nine isn't just taking everything from NBC. From that they're going to take just that show.
Yeah.
Seven have held a pretty strong relationship with ABC and therefore American ABC
Yeah.
and therefore Disney for some time. But again, that became more a la carte and more give and take, and we want just this and not everything. So that has meant that, look, maybe that could be Seven's toe in, that they line up with that. But the effort being put in by Nine around this relationship with Disney suggests, for me, one of a couple of things. It's either going to be Disney Plus launches in Australia and to hell with everyone else. Here they come. It'll be Stan have done an arrangement where, because they obviously have infrastructure and delivery model and a subscriber base and the rest of it, they can say for 2, 5, whatever extra bucks a month, you can sign up and have Stan plus Disney Plus or however they want to market
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Or holus bolus, Stan are the delivery plus mechanism, and as a part of your Stan subscription, you get all the Disney Plus content. That would be an amazing relationship.
But is Disney? Some vendors will say don't play nicely with others. Is
Sure.
Disney one of, like, Apple would never do a deal like that?
No,
Could you see Disney being happy with that, or do you think Disney really wants to be the standalone? We own the customer.
we Australia as a market is a drop in the ocean to
Yeah.
anybody, and to establish, as Netflix did, their own experience here in Australia meant they had to spend a significant coin
Mm.
in Australia to make sure that they had servers here to be able to deliver service to us and all of the rest of it. Because the last thing you want is an outrage that everyone's signed up and then all of a sudden they can't get on Netflix because some international pipe got cut.
We've never
Um,
seen that in Australia before, have we?
Not once ever. I mean, because it's different in Europe, right? You can
Yeah.
have a couple of decent sized mirror server farms around Europe and serve all of Europe. That's
Yeah.
multiple
Hundreds of
countries.
millions of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. So we're small fry by comparison. And it's a big run up to set up to make it go. And look, Netflix did it. Stan have done it. Amazon are doing it, depending on how much you enjoy it, well, in part or not. Um, and look, Disney could do it. I think that the best part of that relationship between Stan and Disney that they have right now is to say, we've got all this stuff. Even if behind the scenes, Disney Plus do launch in Australia as a standalone Disney thing, and it's all on Stan servers.
Yeah. So jumping back to what we are talking about before about Foxtel and Foxtel
Mm,
Now. Foxtel's streaming service offerings was a bit of a dog's breakfast for a while. And I actually
mm,
thought that Foxtel Now was the point where they actually managed to bring it all together and it all started to make sense. And your average consumer actually started to get what Foxtel Now was.
yes.
And now we're talking about Foxtel Now disappearing and fragmenting into KO and
Mm.
whatever else. What's happening there, and why would they throw that away when it seems to me like they were finally getting some cut through?
Yeah, look, and that's right. There was the conversation that maybe, um, Foxtel were going to deliver a drama version of KO.
Project
That
Jupiter, I believe.
That's right. However,
Yes.
that's gone very quiet. Though, if you believe stuff that pops up in the media section of the Australian, which look sometimes can be quite very correct and sometimes can be quite hypothetical. Um, news. We're having a conversation with Stan, in fact, about how can we work together? What's our opportunity? Is there an opportunity in doing this? And who knows if that kind of thing came to pass? I mean, you'd have to say for an Australian, that's almost the monster streaming service.
Yeah, that's a lot of people who had each other's guts sitting down at the same
Sure
table.
is.
Yeah, it'd
However,
be.
the lure
It's not
of
as
the
ludicrous
dollar.
as 7 and 9 trying to work together because they would literally rather watch each other die than
Well, that's
cooperate.
mate. Remember that the one of the rumors flying around as to why Nine chose Stan as the name when it was a Fairfax Nine joint
Yeah,
venture was because the acronym stood for 7, 10, and 9.
yeah, that
It
sounds
was the
about right.
Australian Hulu.
Yeah. So how successful it looks like KO's got some really good numbers. Do
Mm.
you think that increases or decreases the likelihood that they'd now spin off a separate entertainment based, like a drama based one, and give it some other weird name that trying to pretend it's not a Foxtel service?
Look, it would be a really interesting move by Foxtel because they've poured a lot of energy into, well, first Foxtel Go, and now Foxtel Now. Um, and look, from a service point of view, Foxtel Now works really well. That's
Mm,
that's my preferred way of enjoying Foxtel content. Um, I I think it'd be a bold move to tear that apart and turn it into, well, if you want sport, get KO. If you want this other thing, get the other thing. But particularly when someone asked me, how can I get it? What's the best way to get it for Game of Thrones? And I jumped
yeah.
on the Foxtel Now website. And look, if it's, I admit, $80 is a lot per month. But if you want to drop $80, not only do you get Foxtel Now, but you get a full IQ4 in-home satellite service.
Mm,
Like that's crazy talk. And that's all of this, all of their packs too. That wasn't
that's
just
a lot. Okay, yeah.
that's
Well, for Foxtel,
everything.
that is a good deal. Yeah,
Back in the day, it used to be what, 120, $130 a month
easy. Yeah,
to get that, and there was no streaming service. And now they've gone, oh, we can probably
yeah.
do this. New subscribers only, asterisk. Um,
Foxtel subscribers hate the fact that all the good
oh,
deals are for new customers and they just get totally ignored.
mate,
They really hate it.
it's almost like Foxtel subscribers don't have a mortgage with a bank.
Yeah.
Have you tried doing that? We're in like the last 11 years of our 25-year loan.
Yeah.
And I spoke to our bank just yesterday, in fact, about trying to get our mortgage rates better. And they
Yeah.
went, oh, look, we can do this. But honestly, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
because you're in the last third of your loan, no one cares.
We've already milked you for all you're worth.
Yeah, that's it. You've paid it back and now it's just principal. Who gives a rat's?
Yeah. So there's a lot of other stuff coming along, but we've been hearing about 10 All Access for a while.
Mm.
It's actually been out for a while, but it's only now that they're talking about the Twilight Zone, it's starting to get a bit of attention. Is it worth looking at 10 All Access? How much do they want for it?
Yeah, 10 All Access landed with a thud in December last year, 2018,
Yeah.
and has been like a piece of syphilitic meat at a barbecue. Not a lot of people have been interested um, because
Beautiful metaphor there. Beautiful metaphor.
the content on 10 All Access has been really like underwhelming. There
Yeah.
has been new content come out of CBS All Access that is only launching, and that's certainly how the Twilight Zone is coming. And look, I think is piquing interest in 10 All Access that there has never been. Um, One of the moves that 10 made in launching 10 All Access, the CBS All Access rebrand here in Australia, was they maintained 10 Play, their catch up service.
Yeah.
However, they then reduced the life of programs on 10 Play and said, oh, but if you want to watch it for longer, or in fact, every other season of it, jump over to 10 All Access and sign up there. Not a bad model. The problem is that no one else in Australia has been doing that.
Yeah. And it rubs people the wrong way when it feels like you're
Oh,
taking
yeah.
things away from them. Yeah.
Which they legitimately are. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, Gogglebox is a bad example, but you only get that on 10 Play for legitimately 3 or 4 days after broadcast on 10. That's it.
Yeah.
Then it vanishes. Now, that's a Foxtel thing, and Foxtel get it back there. But there are, other first run shows that are airing in Australia on 10 that if, like, for example, Bachelor in Paradise is currently airing on 10, you can watch episodes there for, I think it's up to a week. And after that, you've got to get a 10 all access pass, and you can watch the older seasons of Bachelor in Paradise Australia. But I mean, who has that time, or, self harm incidents?
How
Um,
much money do they want for it?
look, and now I reveal I don't know because I don't care. I think
I
it's
think it's
a one
10.
off. Yeah, it's like
I
not
think it's
$9.99, $10 a month. Let's have
See,
a quick
that's
look while
just
you're talking.
insane because Amazon doesn't even charge that for um, Amazon Video, which is starting to come good in Australia.
Yeah, it's starting to come good.
Yeah,
I've actually been really impressed with some of the stuff that's landing consistently now. And Amazon Prime Video, look, is behind the eight ball because I think in Australia, we kind of look at it and go, they're an American thing. So
yeah,
we immediately measure them straight up to Netflix. Doesn't matter even if that's a thing or just, but Netflix give us 2 to 3 new shows a week, let alone documentaries, movies, the rest of it.
yeah.
Amazon Prime Video giving us, well, one every fortnight, maybe.
But how much are you
But there's
paying
some
for
good
Amazon
stuff.
Prime Video in Australia? About
Oh,
$5 or
look,
$6, I think.
it lands at about 6 or 7
Yeah,
bucks a month once it converts because they're still
yeah.
charging you in American
I've just
dollars.
checked. 10 All Access really wants $9.99 a month.
Oh,
That's
what?
like crazy.
Well, there's not the value in it. One of the
No.
things they did when they launched was, here, have a look at our library, and I don't have a big TV screen running huge resolution or a big screen on my computer, but when I scrolled through, it was like a screen and a half.
Yeah.
You barely got below the fold, and there's that. What? That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the other part, is that their original content that's coming in, that in the States is a huge draw card, is either ferreted away in other broadcast deals here in Australia. For example, Star Trek Discovery or The Good Fight.
Yeah.
Star Trek Discovery on Netflix, as you said before. The Good Fight here airs right now on SBS and is available on demand. You can't get the past seasons. They are on 10 All Access. But it is one of the best dramas going around. And SBS have got that locked away for the life of the show,
Yeah.
all because of timing and stuff, right? It's crazy that that's the case. But the Twilight Zone is the first real piece of CBS/10 All Access content that is original, that is the only way you'll get it there. And in fact, at time of recording tonight, they're doing a sizzle where they're dropping the first episode on 10 broadcast television to try and get you to subscribe over onto 10 All Access to see the rest of it, which is 3 or 4 episodes behind, but they're dropping all of it at once
Yeah.
and then playing week to week with the rest of the series.
Well, I might have to check that out.
I'll
So
be recording and watching the first step for sure.
it's getting so fragmented again. We were getting, when Netflix came into Australia, it felt like we were getting away from that. You have to pay $100 a month to get all the different packages and stuff. And Netflix sort of brought a fair chunk of what you wanted into one place, and
Mm.
now it's fragmenting again. Who's being hurt the most by this fragmentation now? Who's the big loser out
Oh,
of what's happening here?
presto. Sorry, that's unfair.
No, that's totally fair. Of those who are still with us, still in the land of the living, who's hurt the most?
um, Look, I'm going to say that it's all of them broadly,
Yeah,
but the hardest pain is the subscriber's wallet. I'm hearing more and more people saying that they are, because of the dip in and out nature, there's no contract to any of these,
yeah.
that this month is a Netflix month and next month is a Stan month. And,
So
they're,
they'll jump around. They won't just pick one and say, I'm only paying for this one. They will actually jump. Well, I suppose because then you can go back and catch up what was released last month that you didn't watch because
yeah.
you didn't have it that month.
And it's
That
acknowledging
actually
that
makes a
people.
bit of sense.
Well, absolutely it does.
Yeah,
You've just got to be conscious and aware that we have subscribed. Hey, everyone, this month it's on, it's working.
yeah,
The password's the same, whatever. But you've got to be conscious that your credit card, we cancelled that after we subscribed the next day so that it doesn't hit me again, those kinds of things.
yeah,
Um, it's a good move. But the problem is, if we start to lay it out, and you did that with all of the services available right now, we're talking Netflix and Stan and Amazon All Access. Amazon Prime Video and 10 All Access and Hey You, which is apparently still a thing. And as we said, there's Apple TV coming, and there is Disney Plus in some form coming. That's 7 services.
So is piracy the big winner here?
Look, it could be. I mean, the rise and rise and fall and fall and fall and rise of the NBN in Australia has absolutely helped the delivery of these kinds of services to the broad populace.
Hmm.
Um, I love the fact that on our NBN service, I can be watching one thing on Netflix and my family's watching something else on Stan, and maybe one even my kids is doing something else on YouTube simultaneously. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to throw in YouTube Premium. That's 8.
YouTube Premium drives me crazy because I've got Google Play Music, and so they just
Sure.
throw in this YouTube Red rubbish that I didn't even ask for. So
Mm.
I'm listening to music on the speakers, and then I click play on some short video that I want to watch on my computer, and the music stops on the speakers, and there's no way to
Oh.
say bugger off. I never asked for this YouTube Red rubbish. Just give me Google Play Music. That alone might push me over to Spotify.
Yeah.
Drives me
And look,
mad.
well, we're an Apple Music family here, but
Yeah,
I hear your pain.
yeah,
And look, and I would say that kind of like Amazon Prime Video has struggled to give us content. I mean, there's lots of YouTube creators that are delivering original and new content to YouTube Premium, is what it's called now.
yeah.
Um, that if you're into it, and I know my kids would love it if we subscribe. Dad, can we? Can we? No. However, I mean, they've got a new documentary coming that is effectively the Fire Festival version of what happened to the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Ew.
Like the guy that hung them out to dry, that they took to court, and all of those sorts of
Yeah.
things. And the second season of Cobra Kai is about to drop, like in a week's time. And I very luckily have seen the entire season, and it is amazing.
Cool. Got to catch up on that one. The phrase "sweep the leg" came back for a while in my
Sweep the
household.
leg, Johnny. Yeah, oh, mate, they're hitting all those great nostalgic notes. It is a fabulous series. They're half an hour episodes. It's really easy to just chunk through and consume. But I mean, the content is content. That's the joy of all of this. YouTube are lifting their game, which makes them more of a competitor, as does Amazon Prime. Stan's got a great library. Netflix are adding things, week on week on week. I mean, they dropped a new, what's his name, Chris Lilly series
Oh yeah,
this week that we got like a week's warning on. Surprise, Chris Lilly's back.
yeah. I want to see more of the Umbrella Academy. That one I thought
Oh,
was pretty
can
good.
we? Well, yeah, and this will be the thing, right? This is where we start to see in streaming world how popular things are by how quickly the service announces the next season.
Yeah. Well, that just about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold. As always, we'd love to get your feedback on the show. How do you think the battle will play out for Australia's Iron Throne of streaming video? Feel free to comment via Twitter or the Vertical Hold Facebook page. Thanks again to Steve for joining us.
All men must die.
And thanks again, everyone, for listening. We're on a big push this year to reach more people. And thanks to those listeners who've given us a shout out. Remember, it helps if you jump on iTunes or your podcasting platform of choice and leave us a review to help spread the good word. Vertical Hold is proudly sponsored by NetComm, taking Australian technology to the global market.